From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting. Originating from the County Administrative Center, located at 1115 Truxton Avenue in Bakersfield, California. Grounded in ideas, energy, and innovation, Kern County's vision is to be a driving force for the world's fifth largest economy. And our mission is to exceed expectations of the communities we serve, changing the way they feel about government, those who manage it, and the services it provides. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Okay, board to reconvene. Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Peters.
Here.
Supervisor Scribner.
Here.
Supervisor Flores.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez.
Here.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday, April 25th meeting of the Board of Supervisors. We'll first hear from County Counsel Margot Rezon for a report on actions taken in closed session.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This morning in closed session, you met on items number 55, 56, and 57, and there is no reportable action.
Thank you, Ms. Rezon. Okay, now we'll begin considering the consent agenda. Agendas are located in the back of the chambers from anyone wishing to follow along. All items listed with the CA or C above the item number are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. The CA represents the consent agenda for the Board of Supervisors, and the C represents the consent agenda for the Kern Sanitation Authority and the Ford City Taft Heights Sanitation District. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding any item on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda and will be considered in its listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. At this time, I'll read the consent agenda item numbers for the Board of Supervisors agenda first. On page 2, items 3 and 6 through 8. On page 3, items 9 through 15. On page 4, items 16 through 22. On page 5, items 23 through 30. On page 6, items 31 through 38. On page 7, items 39 through 44. On page 8, items 45 through 51. You know, my apologies, I'm reading from the AM session. Sorry. I need to get in order myself. Hold on a second. Okay. Starting on page 2. No, those are wrong consent. Page 3, items 6 through 8. Page 4, items 9 through 13. Page 5, items 14 through 16. Page 6, items 17 through 22. Page 7, items 23 through 29. Page 8, items 30 through 36. And page 9, items 37 through 44. So if anyone from the audience would like to provide comment on any of those consent agenda items, now is the time. Okay, seeing none, any board member would like to comment on the items? None. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda and to adjourn as the Board of Supervisors and reconvene as the Kern Sanitation Authority.
Thank you, Supervisor Scribner.
I'll second that.
Okay. Cast your vote, members.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, we're now sitting as the Kern, we're now sitting as the Kern Sanitation Authority. Would any members of the public like to talk on any of those consent agenda items? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda and adjourn as the Kern Sanitation Authority and reconvene as the Ford City Taft Heights Sanitation District.
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and second. Members, cast your vote.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you. Okay, we're now sitting as the Ford City Taft Heights Sanitation District, and we'll consider the consent agenda items, which include item C2. Are there any members of the public that would like to address that consent agenda item? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda and adjourn as the Ford City Taft Heights Sanitation District and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Members, cast your vote.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we reconvene as the Board of Supervisors, and now we'll move to item 3 under public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on this agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the board. Board members may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. They may ask a question for clarification, make a referral to staff for factual information, or request staff to report back to the board at a later meeting. Also, the board may take action to direct staff to place a matter of business on any future agenda. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. Please state and spell your name before making your presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ralph Robles. I am a veteran, and I have questions on the last election that need to be answered. How many ballots were sent to an invalid address? How many ballots were harvested? How many ballots were sent to addresses with an unusually large number of voters? How many ballots counted were from nursing/assisted living facilities? How many names were purged from the voter rolls before this latest election? How many dead people have voted in this latest election? In the latest election voter recount, did you use the same method of counting as in the original count? How many equipment failures occurred during the last election? How many times was the ballot count halted? How many times was the ballot count revised? How many times was the number of ballots left to be counted revised? What actions have been taken to prevent recurrence of these occasions? How many ballots were processed even though their envelopes had no signature? How close will the election observers be allowed to stand in order to see the signature verification in future elections? How many ballots were flagged for curing? How many above ballots were cured? How many ballots were flagged for adjudication? And how many of the above ballots were adjudicated as valid? And I'd like to add one more, and that is, how much money have you approved for the purchase and installation of the surveillance cameras for future elections?
Thank you, Mr. Robles. Would you like to leave your questions with our clerk of the board?
Be my pleasure.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairman Flores and Supervisors. My name is Rebecca Vaughn, and that's Vaughan, and the clerk is passing out handouts regarding my presentation today. I'm here before your board again to provide additional information regarding certain fiscal management positions within the county who have yet not received promised pay adjustments. The business manager, ASO, senior fiscal services officer, and the director of fiscal research and planning earn up to 45% less to comparable county fiscal management positions since January 1st of 2022, nearly 16 months. Since January of 2022, 7 new fiscal management positions have been created and filled with no consideration to other county fiscal management positions nor an equity study. 3 of these new positions are in the CAO's office. These new positions pay up to 45% higher, yet have the same or less qualifications and similar responsibilities. In addition, since January of 2022, at least 27 management positions have received pay equity increases. Asked why the pay adjustments were not on last week's agenda as promised, Mr. Brown's response was an equity study was to be done on all fiscal management positions. The justification for a pay equity study is moot if the county continues to create higher paying yet comparable positions and not consider the positions that are doing the same work and have the same level of authority and responsibility. Over the past year, our department has made at least 8 attempts or requests to Mr. Brown to correct the issue, yet on last week's board agenda, the auditor-controller division chief position was approved for a 7% increase with no justification. Why was this position approved without justification and without consideration of the future study that Mr. Brown said would be done first? Civil Service Commission Rule 202.4 states that the same schedule of compensation will apply with equity under substantially the same employment conditions. Lastly, I just want to say that I love my job, the people I work with, the public I serve, and the community I live in. However, I get more disillusioned each day, each month, now each year that we're asking for something to be done, being promised it would be done, than it isn't. I thank you for your time and consideration of this request.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn.
Thank you.
I don't know if Mr. Brown or Mr. Alsop would like to respond or not.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we're working on it and we're aware of it. And I think the list that she provided you is an example of what we're dealing with when you change one position, the impact it has across the organization on a whole bunch of other positions. We're doing a comprehensive review of these classifications and we're working on it. And I think that's as much as I can say.
Yeah, sure. No, thank you. Lots going on. Thank you for your patience and thank you for your comments. Next speaker. Oh, yeah, sure. Ms. Perez.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Thank you, Jim and Ryan, for working on this. I trust you. I trust your word. Do we have a sense of a time frame that folks can expect to get some, solidifying of ideas? If you don't have that, that's okay too. I'm not an expert in what you do. So can you comment on that, Ryan? Thank you, Devin.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. Devin Brown, your Chief Human Resources Officer. Thank you for the question and thank you for the comment by the Ms. Vaughn. As Mr. Alsop said, we did do an initial study, and that document that you received from the speaker is just an example of just how things mushroom when you change even one classification in salary. And so we decided to do a more thorough review because we felt that it was going to impact not just those listed on that page, but all sorts of management classifications throughout the county, throughout all county departments. We want to make sure that we are paying equitably for the work that is being performed by our management staff here in the county. She is right. We've added all sorts of management classifications at the request of many county department heads, including the county administrative office, KSARA, all sorts of departments that are trying to find ways to keep their people. So instead of continuing to exacerbate the issue by increasing salaries for one classification at a time, we felt that it was appropriate at this point to do a more thorough review to make sure that we are level setting our management classifications all the way up through county department heads. So that will take some time. That's the question that's on the table. Part of the problem is we gave an estimated timeline of when something like might happen, and now we're being challenged by it not happening in that time frame. So I would say it is a lengthy process. We do have tens of county management classifications to look at. It includes salary studies across our county comparables and city comparables, and determining what is the best salary range for each. And so that will take some time. We're looking at trying to get that completed by the end of your budget cycle, which is in August or September, end of September. So that's hopeful. We've already started on it. So that's where we're at, Supervisor Perez.
I really appreciate you. Devin, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that further clarification. Still under public comment. Next speaker, if any. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to board member announcements or reports. All good too. Okay, brings us to item number 5 under Planning and Natural Resources. This is a request of Mr. Terry Delamarter to appeal the decision of the Kern County Planning Commission for denial of a conditional use permit, number 12, map 103-2, for the operation of an events venue for a maximum of 20 events per year on approximate 7.94 acre parcel located at 5437 Adolphus Avenue. Director Oviatt, would you lead the staff presentation?
Thank you, Chairman Flores, members of the board. I'm here today with Assistant Director Craig Murphy. This matter was continued from your March 28, 2023 board at the request of the applicant after you took public testimony. As noted, this matter is an appeal of the February 23, 2023 Planning Commission decision to deny a conditional use permit, which did request the operation of an event venue that would authorize a maximum of 20 events per calendar year for up to 500 people at a single-family residence. The site for the proposed project is located at 5437 Adolphus Avenue. It is a single parcel of record totaling just under 8 acres. It's directly adjacent to the Kern River. The site is referred to by the project applicant as River Bluff Ranch. The site does have a map designation of 5-7, which is residential, and a zone classification of A1. The Kern River Combining Corridor is also applied to this, and the property is intended for a state-type residential development that authorizes limited agricultural and animal uses intended for the property owner. This property is within a community created by parcel map between 1986 with privately paved public access easement roads that are maintained by the residents. This development have roads that are of a width that do not meet current standards that would apply for current road developments, even for a private subdivision, and there are no streetlights. Legal access to the property is provided by Adolphus Avenue via River Acres Drive and then through either Mandy Street or River Grove Street. Although there is an existing paved drive approach, Brandy Lane is not a legal form of access to this property as it is owned by Chevron. The parcel contains a single-family dwelling with a detached studio, gazebo, a pond, and ground-mount solar panels servicing the property. And the surrounding area consists of rural land with small orchards, domestic farm animals, and single-family dwellings. Property owner has had a history of conducting events on site over the past number of years. These events range from weddings to larger scale fundraising efforts for various organizations. When staff first learned about the events occurring on site, the project applicant was informed that either a temporary event permit or conditional use permit would be required to continue these gatherings in the future. The applicant has submitted applications for a number of different ideas for configurations of an event venue. These have all been either considered, denied, or withdrawn. The history is in the staff report on page 2. The application before your board that was denied by the Planning Commission is the CUP for 20 events a year with a maximum guest list of 500 persons per event. The proposal was all events are proposed to take place over weekends with the occasional midweek event from 3 to 10, excluding time for setup. Food and alcohol services will be fully catered by licensed professionals and not prepared on site. Limited use of the existing structures on site is proposed. Each event would be required to provide restroom facilities. And the project proponent has provided numerous letters, which is attached to your staff report, indicating the requested events are necessary to maintain the property. Subsequent to receiving this application, staff confirmed that the applicant was conducting events on site without land use authorization, and a violation hearing occurred on October 6, 2022. The violation hearing, the project proponent indicated they had 7 wedding events scheduled between September 2022 through November, all over 100 people, which violates the ordinance. It's determined by the hearing officer scheduled events should occur on site. However, no additional events could occur until such time as this item was considered by the Planning Commission. That was in respect of the brides and grooms who had already paid to organize a wedding, not for the purposes of the applicant's finances, but in consideration of the weddings that have been scheduled. To our knowledge, no additional unauthorized events have occurred at River Bluff. What you see here is the applicant has now submitted a number of written statements and has modified their request for use of the property. Instead of 20 events a year for 500 guests, they are now asking to consider this event configuration. Maximum of 6 events per year clustered in October and November, up to 150 guests per event, and then to allow people to short-term rent the venue, and each one of them could have up to 100 people, and they could have events. So first, I'd like to review where this 100 people comes from. So wait, hold on a second here. Okay. So there are two things at play here. One is your board's short-term rental direction, which has been in place since 2011. Your board directed in a number of hearings we had in 2011 that while we don't require a permit for short-term rentals, and remember that short-term rentals mean you can always rent your house out month to month for 30 days. We're talking about you rent your house for 1 day. You rent your house for 3 days. This is what Airbnb, Vrbo, and these other platforms. In 2011, we had a number of public hearings, and the board directed that we wanted to limit that to 6 people or fewer. And the reason for that is we had a number of complaints, primarily focused in Alta Vista and other places, where people would come and rent for 6 people, but they would bring 50 people and have a party. And these were the complaints that we got. There were complaints to the sheriff. There was overuse of septic tanks. There was a whole variety. So in 2011, the policy was directed that you can only rent your house for 6 people or fewer. And there's no permit requirement. You don't register it. Jordan Kaufman, you may have to pay for your transient tax. That's a different department that I don't manage. But if you want to rent for more than 6 people at any one time, then you need to come and get a conditional use permit as a bed and breakfast or a boarding house. Since 2011, this policy has actually resolved our issues. There may be people violating this, but if they don't come to my attention, this policy has actually resolved many of the complaints that we used to get. Short-term rental, as a reminder, a lot of these come through Airbnb or Vrbo. We did go look. They have actually now disallowed people from renting and having more than 19 people. So they don't allow party houses either. They have had insurance issues, some very dangerous issues. So even through those platforms, Mr. Delamarter has clarified with me he wasn't talking about using platforms. He would be the platform. He would be the one who would be renting these. The intention, the second piece of this is the 100 people. A temporary event since 1986 in our ordinance under 19.04.824 has been defined as not a temporary event that you do need a permit for, is a non-publicly sponsored organized event held on privately owned property involving more than 100 people, where use is not otherwise permitted by the zone district or not normally considered as an accessory use. So we have always used, since before I was director, the 100 people as the limit. You can host a personal event for under 100 people. You can even charge for it. You could have a fundraiser. You could have a party. You could have a wedding. But you are hosting it, or you have rented your house from month to month to a renter who's hosting it. A short-term renter may not have the same concerns for complaints from neighbors since they won't be in Kern County anymore. They're going to leave. And so the idea behind this and what has worked since 1986 is that it is the owner of the house or the full-time renter who is having these under 100 events. That has worked, and I do not recommend any change to the interpretation. I note that this is actually in our ordinance. Any change to this would require an actual change to the ordinance or would require us to re-advertise this issue since it was not advertised as for your consideration, but we have brought it for you since the applicant has brought it up. The other part of that interpretation is that it's accessory to the use of the house. For example, if I give a birthday party for some friend of mine, and they have 80 people, even if we charged for it, for the use of my house, that would qualify. That is the use of a house. You can have a party at your house. You could have a fundraiser. An event venue, changing a single-family house into an event venue is when the conditional use permit comes into play. And in this case, the proposal before you is to use the house on Adolphus as an event venue, rentable to people. So that is the distinction in the interpretations that we've brought to your board today. The staff report and addendum has notified surrounding property owners within 1,000 feet of the project site. As of this writing, 37 comment letters have been submitted. We provided you with an addendum with a few more comment letters. 19 letters in support, 11 from neighbors, 8 from individuals who utilize the site for events, and 15 letters and petition signatures have been submitted from neighboring property owners in opposition to the request, citing concerns regarding traffic, impacts to animals, excessive noise, and overall neighborhood safety. Staff report contains a letter from Chevron indicating that an access agreement for use of their roadway during any scheduled event has not been granted to River Bluff Ranch for any size event. Page 6 of your staff report has the 5 findings. I'd like to bring your attention to the proposed use will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the public or property or residents in the vicinity. In review of these findings, the Planning Commission determined, and staff concurs, that the project does not meet the requirements necessary to authorize approval of this request based on the location of the property within this privately maintained road subdivision. Without direct legal access, people need to drive through the entire neighborhood. There are no streetlights. It is a confusing road pattern in order to get to this property. Creating this as an event venue is not suitable for the neighborhood. It's meant to be a quiet environment near the river for these residents. And although the area is certainly beautiful, certainly desirable for parties and weddings, the unique characteristics, including the lack of access from Round Mountain Road, creates negative impacts to the surrounding properties. Access to and from the project is problematic on rural, uneven, dark roads. Outdoor, large-scale events do create noise that seems incompatible with the quietness of the area. And as noted in the written submissions from the applicant, he wants to use it as an advertised event venue. Use of the house for any size advertised event or rent the house full-time to anyone who hosts the event requires the conditional use permit that you're considering to you today. The use is not incidental to the house as a place to live, but rather the primary use as an event venue requires a conditional use permit. Having said all that, our recommendation, we can read the recommendation, which is to deny the appeal. I would note that if this proposal is denied today, it does not stop him from using the provisions that everyone else uses. He could host events at his single-family house for under 100 people. And what do we mean by that? It doesn't mean that you can go on Facebook and saying house for rent. It's supposed to be a non-publicly sponsored. It's supposed to be word of mouth. You put the word out to your friends that I'll host your birthday party or wedding, and he needs to stay under 100 people. It does not mean renting it to someone on a short-term rental basis and then they have a family reunion. Mr. Delamater has met with us. He has made his proposal to us just recently. He has made the case that he does believe that people have had family reunions that exceed 100 people. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt there are many birthday parties that exceeded 100, but they were not regular scheduled events. They were not every week. Under the proposal that he is bringing forward to you, he could have 52 every single week. He could lease this to someone who could have more than 100 people in that neighborhood traveling through. So the provisions and informal temporary event provisions that we have implemented in this county have worked. You can host at your house for under 100 people. You can charge money, but you can't formally advertise that you're charging for money. Those are the rules. With that, I'm available for questions after you take public testimony, and the department recommendation is to deny the appeal, adopt resolution and recommended findings denying the conditional use permit request. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ovia, for staff's presentation. At this time, I'll ask the appellant to come forward and make his presentation if he chooses. Come on. Good afternoon.
Thank you for granting the opportunity to address the full board. This presentation will establish that the determination of the planning department regarding the primary use of our property and the road suitability of our legal access are incorrect. The Kern County Planning Director made the determination that the River Bluff Ranch event venue was not considered an accessory use because advertising in 2020 established commercial use. It was irrelevant that the advertising was done by others, as the Kern County zoning ordinance gives the planning director absolute authority to define a commercial use and is under no obligation to justify her conclusion and may change her decision at will. Only the Kern County Board of Supervisors has the authority to reverse her decision. The primary use of our 8-acre property is residential. That is property intended to serve the round-the-clock need for shelter. We have lived there for 20 years. Our event venue is an accessory use, offering the use of our property for weddings, family reunions, and fundraisers. The JEH Ranch across from Hart Park is an event producer, bundling all the elements of a wedding: food, music, flowers, as well as the venue. The total cost of a wedding package may approach $50,000. Edwards Estate is an example of an event venue where the primary use of the property is commercial, as the owners do not reside there. Conversely, my wife and I are in the real estate rental business. We have never been Airbnb hosts. The term Airbnb is used as a synonym for rent. To Airbnb a property is to rent a property. Revenue is reported to the IRS on Schedule C, Form 1040, as venue rental. The business is passive in nature. That is, it is rental income or an enterprise in which the taxpayer is not actively involved. We are not event producers. Our share for just renting the property is more like $5,000. Sacramento makes a distinction between property that is not open to the public and property with regular business hours, such as Ethel's Old Corral on Alfred Harrell Highway. This is the type of commercial use the zoning ordinance intended to prevent, not a wedding or family reunion that is private and not open to the public. This evidence, consistent with both state and federal statutes, clearly establishes that the primary use of River Bluff Ranch is not commercial. Since 1986, Kern's policy has been to allow, without restriction, intimate, private family gatherings that are by invitation only. This provision has been used successfully to implement a balance between neighborhood concerns and private property rights. The March 28th staff report also states that the intent of the Kern County zoning ordinance was to allow property owners to host events for not more than 100 total person for friends and family. Roxanne and I attended an outdoor wedding just this past Saturday at a residence along our legal access to River Bluff Ranch. Attendees traveled through Chevron's property legally because Chevron has historically allowed unrestricted passage to guests of residents. The County of Kern had no restriction on the number of attendees or the path of travel because the event was a wedding involving a property owner. On the other hand, the county does not allow fundraisers without restriction because they are not private, they are not intimate, they are not family gatherings, and they are not by invitation only. County restriction would trigger a written permission requirement from Chevron in order to use the direct route from Round Mountain Road to the River Bluff Ranch entry gate, which Chevron is unwilling to give at this time. On Saturday, September 24th, 2022, River Bluff Ranch was rented for a 250-person wedding with Colleen Bauer of Fairy Godmother Events in charge. Directional signs were placed along our legal access in a good faith effort to avoid Chevron's property, even though it was expected that Chevron would not oppose passage by renters or guests of renters. On the exact same day, a 200-person wedding was hosted by the owner of a neighboring property utilizing access from Round Mountain Road through Chevron's property. Once again, the County of Kern had no restriction as to the number of attendees or the path of travel because the event was a wedding involving a property owner. Both were private, intimate family gatherings that were by invitation only. Amazon has changed the way America shops. Airbnb has changed our thinking regarding real estate rental in ways not even imagined 37 years ago. And event production companies have radically changed the wedding business. In 2010, Colleen Bauer founded Fairy Godmother Events, and John Kilby started Chapel Events in 2014. Event coordinators like Brandy Ann of Chapel Events make their living organizing and managing weddings, allowing the family to fully enjoy the occasion. In addition to an event coordinator, a venue coordinator is needed to be on site to control and manage the event so that it does not cause a nuisance to others in the neighborhood. Most of the time, the venue coordinator would be the owner of the property, but event production companies could also provide venue coordinators. Family reunions do not require the services of an event coordinator or a venue coordinator unless a wedding is involved, as renters for a family reunion expect the owners to leave. Fundraisers require the services of both an event coordinator and a venue coordinator. Event production companies make renter events more closely resemble owner-occupied events because the guests are not strangers, as contact information of all people invited is available along with the event timeline. River Bluff Ranch is a perfect fit to comply with the Kern River Corridor zoning designation established to provide public access to and enjoyment of the Kern River. Each event provides an opportunity for many different citizens to enjoy the Kern River, as attendees are different for each occasion. From an environmental standpoint, River Bluff Ranch provides plenty of open space along the river, many large native trees, and a safe haven for geese, wood ducks, mallards, valley quail, bobcats, beaver, and endangered egrets. Our venue is an outdoor site featuring grass, large trees, and water, a combination that is rather unique for Bakersfield, except maybe for this year. River Bluff Ranch is a charter member of the East Side Water Management Area, established in 2018 to comply with the regulations and requirements of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. River Bluff Ranch, site of the historic Gordon's Ferry River crossing, is part of the cherished elements of the Kern River Corridor, from Piles Boys Camp to Lake Ming to Hart Park, the JEH Ranch, the Kern County Soccer Park, Calm, the Panorama Preserve, all the way to Buena Vista Lake, affecting virtually every segment of the population of Kern County. The reasons for the recommendation of the Kern County Planning and Natural Resource Department and the decision of the Planning Commission were not based on the appropriateness of our property, neighborhood compatibility, or even the validity of neighbor complaints. The real issue is a lack of a dedicated public road from Round Mountain Road to River Grove Street due to an access dispute of over 50 years. At a meeting with Chevron Senior Legal Counsel Tom Loftus to obtain the needed easement, it was explained that Chevron's preference would be to transfer ownership of the land in order to mitigate liability risk from vehicles driving off the sharp curve on Round Mountain Road and crashing into the gully on Chevron's land. However, a written agreement with Chevron to transfer a portion of assessor's parcel number 436-070-02 was never consummated because I was unwilling to include the mineral rights for the 22 acres I owned without getting something for them. Could you show the police side, please, the one with the two pictures? Had the lot line adjustment to complete the land transfer occurred, this would have been my plan. Record a public access easement for Adolphus Avenue from Round Mountain Road to River Grove Street and upgrade the paved road to county standards. Abandon the flawed Brandy Lane access easement. Create a cyclist watering station for the route to Glenville and back to North Chester and Oildale. Obtain a historical landmark designation for the Gordon's Ferry crossing and the child's grave site located nearby. Gordon's Ferry was used to transport people and animals across the Kern River before we had bridges. The story I've been told is that the 6-year-old daughter of a family residing in the Kern River Valley died, and the family wanted to come to Bakersfield for the funeral. The river was too high to cross, so they had the service where the gravesite is today. I would like to see a replica or at least a mural by the gravesite to preserve the history of this area. To my knowledge, Chevron has not transferred ownership to anyone else. I believe they still want to get rid of it, and they don't want any money for it. They just don't want me to own it. At this time, the only option to avoid Chevron's land is to use our legal access as a path of travel from Round Mountain Road. 10 neighbors with parcels abutting River Acres, River Grove, or Adolphus Avenue have graciously written letters of support. None of the neighborhood roads are maintained by the County of Kern. Some are public roads, some are private. Legal access requires a publicly dedicated road that anyone can use. While the asphalt pavement is not wide enough for 2 vehicles to pass in the opposite direction at the same time, the road easement is the required 60 feet in width. The roads were designed to accommodate vehicle, horse, and human traffic at the same time. There is no curb, gutter, or sidewalk, but Round Mountain Road does not have those amenities either. Cruzan and Associates poured 3 samples from each road, 9 total, to verify road suitability by performing an R-value test. The March 27th letter from Engel Engineers confirmed that the R values were high enough to support a fully loaded fire truck on a properly graded dirt road, confirming that the roads could easily handle the additional automobile traffic of guests as well as the heavier delivery trucks. The board should also be aware that I wrote a check for $750 for road maintenance and will continue to pay $250 per event in addition to our regular road maintenance share, despite the fact that my traffic analysis indicates an increase of annual traffic of less than 1%. Contrary to the inference of the road site visit of March 10, 2023, Mandy Lane with paving measuring 10 feet in width is not part of our legal access route. River Bluff Ranch very much desires to be under the umbrella of an approved conditional use permit in order to put to bed the conflict with our neighbors. Planning department involvement would require a review by neighboring property owners, something that has not been possible in the past, as my 2 requests to meet have been ignored. Our appeal request is for 6 events per year with a maximum of 150 guests only in the months of October and November. It would be appreciated if the approval period could be December 1st, 2023 through November 30th, 2025, since weddings are planned a year in advance. Events for 2023 have already been booked, and we may have flood damage anyway. The 2-year processing timeline was not included in this presentation in order to stay within the time allotted by the board chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will go to public comment. Anyone wishing to address this item, now is the time to come speak.
Hi, my name is Scott Floyd. I live at 6116 Mandy Lane. I am adjacent to Mr. Delamater's property, his neighbor. I just wanted, before we go on, I'm hoping we could save a little time here and cut to the chase. The very first board meeting, you said, come back when you have legal access to your property. Okay, so before we hear from 10 different neighbors that live a half mile away or vendors that don't live in the neighborhood that make money, can we just see and make sure that he has legal access onto his property? That's what you guys said. It's denied until you have legal access without crossing private roads or Chevron's property. So I really don't need to hear all these people that are for this or even against it for now. What we need to decide is, does he have legal access to his property with commercial vehicles and 100 different people? So can we start with that before we hear any, I'm for it, I'm not for it? Can we get right to the chase?
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Supervisors. My name is Joseph Engel. Engel is spelled E-N-G-E-L, please. I'm an engineer, civil engineer, and licensed structural engineer, licensed to practice in the state of California. Mr. Delamater asked me to comment on the durability of that road with roads with increased traffic count. To that end, we suggested that we get some R-value tests. R-value tests simply give us an idea of the quality of the subgrade which supports the road, and with those tests, we could make a determination. That determination has been placed in the form of a 1-paragraph letter. If I may, I shall read it.
Sure.
And I can leave a copy with you. It's dated March 27th, 2023. It's addressed to River Bluff Ranch, attention Mr. Terry Delamater, regarding the quality of the subgrade underlying the following roads: River Acres Drive, River Grove Street, and Adolphus Avenue at River Bluff Ranch, Bakersfield, California. We reference the R-value test report prepared by a testing lab here in Bakersfield by the name of Krzan and Associates. Dear Mr. Delamater, the average of the R values found in the above reference reports is 57.2. An R value greater than 40 indicates a good subgrade for the support of a road. As such, a value of 57 is considered to represent a very good subgrade base for road construction. A road, when properly constructed on such a subgrade, can be expected to have good durability with very low maintenance. As we researched the subject roads, we reviewed our findings with a traffic engineer and a geotechnical engineer. Both engineers emphasized that passenger vehicles are fairly lightweight and do not govern the design of road pavement. The typical...
Mr. Trainer, your time has expired. Do you want to bring your comment to a close, please?
The conclusion is that the subgrade is of sufficient strength to support a dirt road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker. But just hold 1 second so I have the clerk to come back to do the timer. Thank you. Just 1 second. Ready, Kathy? Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Sam Wilson, spelled W-I-L-S-O-N. I'm a licensed architect in California. I've worked for Terry 10 or 15 years, so my optics may be slightly skewed. I'm not being paid for this. I spent a lot of my own time going to County Hall of Records and researching the legal descriptions of the easements to Terry's property. That there's a lot of subjective things going on here, but those are very clear and objective to understand. There's clear legal access for the general public. They're 60 foot wide, 30 foot on each side of the road. There was one section where there was an error made where a typo error where the civil engineer as part of the subdivision put something on some Chevron land, which was impossible, but the intent is clear. So by all means, to my knowledge, there is no problem with legal access. And trying to stay fair about this, I live in the country. I hate easements past my house. I understand where everybody's coming from. And I have to agree, Terry may or may not like some of the things I say, but I think the board was wise in denying 20 parties for 500 people. If I lived in the neighborhood, that would drive me nuts. But I think a fair compromise can be made with smaller numbers of events and smaller numbers of people. Why deprive like beautiful brides and of this beautiful place that contributes to the economy? Why let them go to Paso Robles, the snobby wineries? They should be here. I think the board has two options today. One is to deny the appeal, or the other one is to continue this to a later date. I urge the board to vote to continue this to a later date so that the neighborhood and Terry can work together to come up with an amicable agreement so that the board doesn't have to vote on such a difficult issue. I feel like if you vote today, you're going to be a hero or a villain, but if the neighborhood sorts it out, it will be an easier vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Crystal Burley. I'm a young adult that is growing up.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your name?
Crystal Burley.
B-U-R-L-E-Y?
Take out the U.
Thank you.
So I'm a young adult actually looking for what Mr. Delmar has currently at his property, which is beautiful acreage, beautiful water, the opportunity to have events to give memories to families. These wedding venues are very expensive everywhere we go. People can't afford them. The beauty, the nature, the memories of everything. I understand the neighbors, honestly, I really do. When I go out there, my aunts lived out there, I've grown up out there too. It's a private, beautiful area, but what was it, 8 acres? 8 acres is quite large, so I mean, and not to mention when going into his property, it may not be legal access, but who sells a home without legal access? Just curious. But anyways, his property goes to the right, goes directly in, so I don't know where all the passing of everybody in the roads. Not to mention going in, if there's somebody coming out the other way, there's a little triangle around a tree, because I've already looked and thought about safety. It's perfectly angled and there's enough room for cars to pass. Not to mention, it's right off the road, so it's not going through neighborhoods of people's houses and disrupting them. I don't know what kind of business trucks or vehicles are gonna be out there delivering, but I don't think we're gonna have 18-wheelers out there. I don't know any wedding venues that use 18-wheelers, but Just seems that our rights are being taken away as homeowners these days. You buy homes, you buy properties so that you can have what you want and do what you want with your property within reasons and respect of everybody. But it seems that everybody just wants to fight against each other and not help each other like we used to. Compromising is one thing that we all need to learn again. I mean, there's rules and regulations for a reason, but let's work in with the respect of each other. We all have what we have because that's what we want and desire, and that's what makes us happy. But are we supposed to have it taken away from us just because somebody doesn't like noise? I don't like the noise 5 blocks down from my house. It is what it is. You go to the country for a quiet, yes, but is really 20 events that much? Although that's not what he's asking for anymore. 1 a month. Now what, it's down to 6? And it's got to be between winter months? Not too many memories people can make with that.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Christina Kuntz, and thank you for giving me this little bit of an opportunity. I'm the neighbor that had the private wedding that Terry was talking about. And also he's rerouted traffic. I think he had worked out with another neighbor that rather than coming in from the road that's just adjacent to their property, they would come through our road, which we do have a light on our stretch of the road, and that has never disrupted us. The traffic or the rerouting, we've never been bothered by it. The noise, parking, we've never been bothered by any of it. And so, of course, I'm in favor of this. And I do like the idea of the generating the money locally. I think that's important. I think it's ingenious. There are so many avenues that everybody has brought up, the bucolic setting, the history of Kern County, but I just would like also to bring up this point that even after we had our wedding, which was small, the neighbor came and started inquiring, how many people did we have? And we have a large family, so it always looks like there's a lot of people. I have 10 children, we have 21 grandchildren, so Sunday supper at our house looks like we're having a huge party. So we, mentioned how many people came, and I think it's sad that we're sitting here just as this woman that I didn't know came and said, what are we doing? Why is it a public hearing that we can't even have a wedding for a son in our home without, all of these restrictions? So anyway, I am in favor. I see that Terry and Roxanne have done so much to accommodate the neighbors. Nobody wants a range war.
Thank you, Ms. Coons.
Okay.
Okay. Appreciate your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Peel, P-E-E-L. I'm so happy to be here today to share my experience with River Bluff Ranch. My husband and I were invited to attend a benefit dinner for the Morningstar Farms last summer. I proudly call Bakersfield my home now, but I'm from Montgomery, Alabama, and I didn't even know that the Kern River had water in it. So this was my first experience to see the river. And it was so just truly beautiful. As soon as we arrived there, we were greeted with a parking staff, directed where to go, people that were obviously dressed to be employees and help. We were directed. Once you were on the grounds, everything was organized, very tasteful, arranged seating, just a quiet venue, peaceful on the rivers, like soft background noise. And, I was just really just taken back by the beauty that was there. When the night was over, it just gave me a new appreciation for Bakersfield, for Kern County. First off, just to appreciate the beauty that I didn't even realize that was there. And second, what a beautiful place to have such a beautiful event, and that was so worthy of that support. I've known Terry for several years. I've been a patron at his gym. I know that he is very meticulous with what is required. Everything is always just very professional, wonderful. He does a wonderful job in all that he does. And as a small business owner, I also understand how important support from the community is. So I'm in favor, and I think that this would be a good thing to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peel. Next speaker, please.
I wish to thank you, lady and gentlemen, Kern County Supervisors, for the opportunity today to speak with you regarding citizens Terry and Roxanne Delamatter's wonderful contribution to public use of their beautiful River Bluff Ranch. I have the good news.
Sir, can you give us your name for the record, please?
I'm sorry, sure. Wallace, I go by Scott Brown. Legal name is Wallace if you need it.
I'm sorry, Wallace. What? I'm sorry, can you repeat your name?
Scott Brown.
Scott Brown. Thank you.
Sorry, I got excited about speaking to you. River Bluff Ranch is a rare 8 acres of residential property on the banks of the Kern River. My important contribution today is to share from my own experience with you, Kern County representatives, that Terry and Roxanne's river site is an exciting, comfortable, calm, and safe stretch of Kern County land with long open green lawns and an amazing tree-studded view of the Kern River. In fact, it is a very rare place to enjoy weddings, recreation, educational outings, and Mother Nature at her best. This unusual site provides ready and easy access. No problem driving out there and getting on the property access for your local friends, neighbors, and citizens of all ages. As a retired professional engineer and now an educator of reading, writing, and publishing, I've been an attendee and contributor at 6 different events and outings at River Bluff Ranch. On one very special occasion there, we found no other unique, accommodating venue available in Bakersfield. The Delmatters came to our rescue. Additionally, we appreciated a very reasonable rental fee. I, for one, can assure you, you representatives, it is very important to allow this civic activity of sharing this lovely property to continue. This request asks the aid of your considerations and assistance. The citizens of Kern County will thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Ron Nelms. I'm a licensed land surveyor in the state of California. And there was some question of whether the property has legal access. Just want to testify that I have reviewed all the public dedications in the area, and they do have legal access. The river has legal access from Round Mountain Road to the property. That being said, I've known, as separated a little bit here, I've known Mr. Delamater for several years. I've done, in full disclosure, I've done work for him, various projects, and I can say he's one of the few people that I know has a huge heart to serve his community and to give back to what he has acquired through his life. So I vouch for his moral and ethical standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelms. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Board, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ray Collins, C-O-L-L-I-N-S, and I have a letter I would like to read, and that's probably going to give you the reason I'm standing here today. This letter is dated April 18th of this year to the Board of Supervisors, and it's from Pastor Phil Neighbors of Valley Baptist Church. And the letter reads, each spring we enjoy having senior adult picnics at Terry Delamater's beautiful property along the Kern River. We typically have around 100 people in attendance. We share barbecue, we have a great time together, it's a beautiful place. His property is a perfect setting for this kind of event. We are always respectful to his neighbors, and I like this part, and we're not a rowdy bunch. We would love to continue our spring barbecue picnics at this location. Our senior adults would greatly appreciate a favorable ruling so we can continue our visit to this river. I cannot be here in person today because I am visiting my mother back in Oklahoma on her 93rd birthday. Thank you for your consideration on this issue. Phil Neighbors, pastor at Valley Baptist Church. And as a member of that church, and as a member of Pastor Phil's life group, which is a Sunday school class, I've been out there and enjoyed this beautiful place. And it would be a shame that family and friends could not gather there in numbers of around 100, and it would be really a shame if their church could not be a part of that beautiful, beautiful property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Now, next speaker, please.
Chairman Flores, members of the board, my name is Maurice Etchichuri. I live at 6329 Mandy Lane. I am here to ask the board to deny the appeal and to uphold the decision of the Planning Commission upon the recommendation of the Planning Department. I believe it's a very thorough analysis. I have many things that I could comment about there, but I've been living in the neighborhood since 2009 when I married my wife, who acquired the property in 2001. Unfortunately, this request has kind of divided a very quiet and peaceful neighborhood. Kind of one of those things that in the industry of, and most of you know since I've appeared a number of times before this board, I am a civil engineer, but in kind of in the industry, I call this scope creep. Started out as kind of a nice little venue and just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it became a problem. And the only way to kind of rein this back in is to not deny this request. Because what I fear is if you grant this conditional use permit, 6 events will turn into 12, will then turn into 24, and we'll get back to the 20. And I believe that your ordinances have worked very well for you over the years. I believe Valley Baptist Church can still enjoy the property under the current ordinances. Other than that, I don't wish to take up any more of your time, but I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Etchichuri. Next speaker, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Rolinda Leask, Leask. I've been a resident on River Acres Drive, just east of River Grove, for 26 years. I believe that the ruling should be in favor of Mr. Delamater's request, the most recent amended request. I've lived out there and sat on my patio many spring or summer evenings, and I hear a party down the way and the laughter and the music, if there is music, and it brightens my heart. If I'm in my house, I can't hear it. My neighbor, Christina, had a wedding right next door, and our houses are literally like this. I'm motioning my thumbs together, even though we're on different streets. And I couldn't hear a thing if I was in my house. I was at the wedding, but I left early because I'm old. And it's not a bother. I enjoy people enjoying what they have. I don't get to give that many parties anymore. And so, I don't know. I don't see, okay, let's go to the road. The other access from River Acres to River Grove, that's off Round Mountain Road. The last wedding, I believe it was the last wedding, there were people stationed at the corners to tell drivers which way to go, and on down River Grove to Adolphus. I didn't see any confused driving. I didn't see anybody almost run off the road. I read something in the previous brief.
Ms. Lees, your time's coming to an end. You want to finish your sentence?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think that his request for conditional use permit under the most recent request should be granted. And I'm certain that the neighbors
That's 20 seconds. I got to be fair
Okay.
here. So thank you, though.
All right.
But we got your point, and you're in support. Appreciate that. Don't mean to cut you off. Next speaker, please.
Thank you for this opportunity to address Terry's concern. My name is Jerry Koop, K-O-O-P. I'm a licensed contractor, also a vendor for the county. I maintain 7 parks in the county. And what I've seen Terry do over the long haul is improve this property's value and appearance. As a landscape contractor, he has exerted a lot of expense to bring this property up to some pretty high standards. He's got curbing against asphalt, creating a clean edge for turf to not overgrow its area. He has very clean turf. It's a golf course standard that is very nice. He has water features. He's got a gazebo. And this is a home for native animal life as well. It's a very, very beautiful venue. And it has enhanced the property values of the adjacent neighbors. It has to. And not only that, but as a gesture of friendship to his neighbor, and this is my interpretation, Terry's planted over 100 cherry trees, and they are blooming right now. The canopy of those cherry trees are over the fence line. And if you remember how Washington, D.C. was gifted by the Japanese cherry trees, were they not, as a gesture of friendship? I think that's what Terry's trying to do, is work out an amiable agreement of friendship with his neighborhood and his environment that he's enhanced so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Koop. Next speaker, please.
Thank you for this time. My name is Joan Thorne Casey, Thorne-Casey. I have been a resident out in this area for over 30 years. My late husband and I built our dream custom home with the plan and the hope that it would remain a beautiful, serene, idyllic venue in which to raise a family, not to create a revenue stream. I will bring the conversation back that it's not about patriotic items or giving to the community. This is our home. This is our neighborhood. I have created beauty that has enhanced the neighborhood. So I am vehemently opposed to this concept at any size, any scale. We are a neighborhood. It needs to remain that way. I live on River Acres. Now that there's the contention about the access to the venue event area, my property runs the length of River Acres, so I have witnessed traffic patterns that don't appeal to me. I do not have barricade fences by which traffic is prevented from entering my property. That's my prerogative. Everybody else has their prerogative. So I plead that the commission deny this request and enforce the current code. I'm with Mr. Etchecherry. The board has done a terrific job. The file exemplifies how much effort has been placed by all the county members. So
Thank you.
I hope.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Mike Miller, and my wife Kathy and I own and operate Tastries Bakery. We do thousands of events each year all over Kern County, and we are very familiar with all the venues in our area. The Kern River is part of the identity of our community, and this is a highly unique venue that is just not does not have a comparable venue in the area to compare to it. So I think the opportunity of the community being able to enjoy this area and the accommodations that Terry has made to limit the access, to limit the time periods in which he's going to be having the events should be taken into strong consideration. The community really needs a venue of this quality. The community deserves to be able to enjoy private event on the river in an environment like this, and I hope that you will approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name's Clarine Gilliam, C-L-A-R-I-N as in Nancy, E as in Edward, last name Gilliam, G-I-L-L-I-A-M as in Mary. Thank you for listening to all of us today. I'm going to kind of repeat everything that everyone said for Mr. Delamarter. I have attended a wedding and 2 fundraisers at this venue, and what a gorgeous place. What a gorgeous place that is definitely a necessity for Bakersfield. We heard the lovely lady from Alabama, and for someone to come out of state and attest to, you know, our beautiful surroundings and what we have here, you know, gives credit to that. Terry is an upstanding individual. He vets his people. He represents good people. He's not bringing something to the community that would be detrimental to them. Where am I here? May I address you all? Have you all been to his venue? With a show of hands, how many have been to his venue? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Couch, Mr. Shriver. Great. I am a voting representative in your district. When you go to that venue, it's a special place. And so the 3 of you that have been to his venue know what I'm talking about. And sadly, you should go, definitely should go, because it's a special place. So in conclusion, I would just ask that you really would support Mr. Delamarter and getting his CUP. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gilliam. Next speaker, please.
My name is Shirley Ash, spelled O-E-S-C-H. I have known Terry and Roxanne Delamarter for 20 to 30 years, for a long time. I know them as hardworking entrepreneurs. Most of all, I know them as people of integrity. They've been blessed with this beautiful facility, and they have been very, very generous with that facility over the years. I've attended a number of events. I can tell you that the parking there's just adequate parking. There's a huge area to have people spread out so that you can have a very nice venue for people to meet. And as I said, they've been generous, very generous with that property over the time. I would urge that this body give them the permission that they request. It would be of great benefit to the community in many, many ways, and I know that he would respect whatever provisions that you would impose on him, because I know that that's the kind of man he is.
Thank you, Ms. Ash. Next speaker, please.
John Kilby, Johnkilby, with Chapel Events. And I'm just going to read from another event producer. She sent an email. Colleen Bauer owns Fairy Godmother Events. We have planned and executed several events at River Bluff Ranch. We've always had a good experience. We've never had any issues. We always ended by 10 p.m. River Bluff Ranch is one of the most beautiful properties in Bakersfield. Terry is a pleasure to work with and always turns the property over to us for the running of events at the ranch. We would really like to see Terry gain approval for his events. I concur with that as an event producer, and would just like to add that there really hasn't been any problems with event access going through the community, as that seems to be the bone of contention. And it's unfortunate that the neighbors, it's become a contention in the community, because I think that ultimately the amount of traffic is negligible. And really, if you've been to the property, I can't say that there's really any noise of any significance that would bother neighbors. I think it's more that they're accustomed to having a very private community area for their private group, and having people from the outside drive through might be the area of concern for them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please. Come on up. Come on. Sure.
Thank you, members of the board. My name is Alyssa Reed. I live directly across the street at 5342 Adolphus Avenue with my husband, Jason, and 2 daughters. I am asking, along with a dozen other neighbors that surround the property venue, that you deny the CUP today. It's simply not compatible with the neighborhood. It's a nuisance. It threatens our home values, and it's constant. It's been going on for years, and I hope that I have demonstrated to you a history of a pattern and practice of a complete disregard for the neighborhood's safety and overall concerns. If Kathleen would so kindly help me, we'll play 2 videos taken from last fall when there were 2 weddings back to back of alleged approximately 100 people at each event. That this, I hope, helps to demonstrate what I'm talking about today, about the noise and the nuisance that we endure for hours on end, weekend after weekend. There we go. No problem. I didn't need to compete with that. As I mentioned, those are just 2 very small examples of what we endure every single weekend for hours on end. The parties go on for a long period of time. You hear it from inside our house, from outside the house. It's simply not a fair burden to place on the rest of the neighborhood. As you've already heard, the roads are narrow, they're dark, it's dangerous, We have drunk drivers meandering through our own individual properties as they try to find their way out of the neighborhood, as they meander their way in with deliveries and everything else. It's a constant nuisance, and we would greatly appreciate your support in denying it. And just to state again for the record, there is no legal access through the Reed's property, and we appreciate your support in honoring that. And thank you again for your time today.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Next speaker, please. That's okay.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores, Supervisors. My name is Craig Jansen, last name spelled Janssen. Mr. Delamater made the point that renters should have the same rights as property owners, should be allowed to host private, intimate, and invitation-only gatherings. This has been the position of the county for decades, and as Ms. Oviatt explained, that there have been properties that she is quite certain that have been in excess of the 100-person limit that they have not bothered to enforce. When a property is leased for any length of time, the fee simple rights of the property owner are passed through to the tenant, creating a leasehold estate, including not only occupational rights to the property, but also upkeep and maintenance requirements. In some cases, only the occupational rights are transferred, and the property owner is still required to maintain the property and all the expenses that are inherited, including such things as property taxes. In many instances in California, the laws regarding property possession and occupation actually favor the tenant over the property owner. I hope you'll see this as a valid point in Mr. Delamater's position regarding private, intimate, invitation-only gatherings, such as a wedding, without any county or property easement restrictions that have already been granted to the other property owners located in the same neighborhood as River Bluff Ranch. Additionally, the opposition to Mr. Delamater have misrepresented themselves both to Mr. Delamater and to the county through false statements and claims that have been made. Some of these claims have already been proven false to the county, and these same people have also deliberately caused disturbances with the sole intent of interrupting the quiet enjoyment the renters of River Bluff Ranch would normally expect, to the extent law enforcement was called to mitigate an unlawful access restriction to River Bluff Ranch caused by a neighbor, disrupting the wedding that was occurring at that time on the property, resulting in considerable emotional distress to both the family and the bride. Some of these people have behaved unethically, unprofessionally, refused any and all attempts by Mr. Delamater to mitigate this situation and avoid this hearing entirely. It is my hope that you will agree with Mr. Delamater's position and allow him to continue to pursue this permitting process for his private personal property. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Jansen. Next speaker, please. Okay, last call. Okay, just in terms of order, I'm going to go back to staff to Lorelei. Oh, I was going to do you, then rebuttal. We want to do rebuttal? Well, since we started with you, we went to him. How about you, then rebuttal? Or do you want to do rebuttal first? Okay. The appellant rebuttal now. Mr. Delamater, do you want to do rebuttal? You get 10 minutes.
Craig, please display the second slide.
Then I'll go back to you.
Since 1986, Kern's policy has been to allow, without restriction, private, intimate family gatherings that are by invitation only. This provision has been used successfully to implement a balance between neighborhood concerns and private property rights. The March 28th staff report also states that the intent of the Kern County zoning ordinance was to allow property owners to host events for up to 100 total persons for friends and family. What about renters? Surely the intent back in 1986 was not to discriminate against renters of property, but what really matters is the intent of today's Board of Supervisors. If the intent of this board is that renters of property for private, intimate family gatherings have the same rights and privileges as property owners, then without restriction means simply that the County of Kern does not get involved with the path of travel to River Bluff Ranch for weddings or family reunions. Since Chevron has historically allowed unrestricted passage to residents and guests of residents, it is also expected that Chevron would not oppose passage by renters or guests of renters as it would be impossible to tell the difference. Bottom line, it is my position that all wedding and family reunion attendees may use the direct route from Round Mountain Road. Neighborhood residents would not be disturbed. This board would be heroes if they were to confirm my position. However, fundraisers do not fit the description of being private, intimate family gatherings, and they are generally not by invitation only. Therefore, fundraisers are not exempt from restriction. Without written permission, attendees of a fundraiser would need to go through the neighborhood and not trespass on Chevron's property. In addition, fundraisers in excess of 100 total persons would require a temporary event permit issued by the planning department. In correspondence Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023, with Joe Brennan, District Supervisor for Supervisor Philip Peters, the responsibility of doing a better job of preventing fundraiser guests from trespassing on Chevron's land was acknowledged. In addition to A-frame directional signage and bright vested control persons, future fundraiser events will include orange cones blocking access from Round Mountain Road before the event and at our entry gate at the event conclusion. Recently, April 12th to be exact, a text message was received to rent our venue for an employee appreciation barbecue sometime in August for about 125 people. I believe this event would meet the criteria for a family reunion. In the past, Roxanne and I have hosted gatherings of our church for close to the 100-person limit. Our church family is growing, and future gatherings may be for more than 100. This type of event would also qualify as a family reunion. Without restriction means that the county would resolve not to be concerned with the number of guests attending a family reunion hosted by property owners or property renters. Policy that prohibits renting just because the renters are not friends or relative of property owners is totally wrong. This appeal is a fight to give renters a level playing field. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Oviatt.
Chairman Flores, members of the board, I'm obviously open to questions, but I'd like to address a few things that have been brought up.
Sure.
First of all, legal access has never been in doubt. There is clearly legal access through Adolphus. The issue is the use of the direct access on the Chevron easement. There is a clear communication from Chevron, a recent communication, that no access for events is authorized by them. That is a private easement that belongs to them. They have been very generous in allowing the, it's a shortcut, so they've been allowing the people who live there to use it, but it has now gotten to a point with these larger events that Chevron has been very clear. They're not authorizing any events contrary to what has been presented today by various speakers. We can only go on what Chevron says, and that email is in the record. Okay. There's been a lot of confusion about what we're talking about here. All we have is the words of the zoning ordinance. The words private family gathering, intimate family gathering are not words that are in the zoning ordinance. Family reunion is not a word in the zoning ordinance. There are 3 levels since 1986 that have been implemented. Under 100 people, you can have any kind of event you want at your house. And if the neighbors complain, then either the sheriff shows up or they don't. You can hire a lawyer and bring a civil action. But code compliance won't show up, the planning department won't show up, and you don't need a permit. Fundraiser, birthday party, wedding. What's happened, as some other supervisors in certain areas, such as Tehachapi and other parts of the district, has noticed over the years, is weddings have gotten bigger. Under 100 people used to be a good-sized wedding, and now they all want 200. We have numerous complaints outside Metro Bakersfield about those types of single-family homes that are having weddings in their barns. And we have done numerous conditional use permits like this. So this is not some watershed moment where this has not come up before. And the only way I have of interpreting the ordinance is the plain words. And the words say, under 100, you can have an event. Over 100, there's two different kinds of events permits you can get. You can say, I want to give a wedding for 300 people at my house for whoever. That's called a temporary event. I just want to have 2 of these events this year. That's it. Here's the dates. That goes to a director's hearing. It's a low-key permit called a temporary event. What is brought before your board today is a conditional use permit, because once this is approved, it can happen every year forever. This is a forever event unless there's some limitation, but normally we don't put an end date on conditional use permits, and that makes it more temporary. The word commercial, we did not declare this a commercial, not a single-family house. We said that what you wanted was a permanent permit to rent out your house for these events, which is a commercial use, which turns you into a conditional use permit. Those are the 3 levels. If your board denies this permit today, he can go and have under 100 people. He can have the barbecue, he can have the family reunion, he can, rent out his single-family house for that, but he is accountable for it. He can't pass that accountability down to, well, I actually rented it to someone else for the day, and they're responsible for everything. If there is a complaint, it will go back to him. It will be his property that we would bring the complaint to. And it's not 120, it's not maybe over 150, it's 100. And when people complain about the noise, we would send environmental health out, we would send out our normal code compliance. If there have been events in that neighborhood over 100, it's because no one complained. We are complaint-based in the county. If no one complained, then I guess you had your event. We note that at the last hearing, he said he had events over 500 people. Clearly, he has no permit to have an event over 500 people, but has had numerous events. That was his testimony. The issue is not legal access. It is, you have to drive through this entire neighborhood. If you can show you have to drive through this neighborhood. It's dark. There's no streetlights. These are large houses. People have legitimately complained that strangers are now going to drive through the neighborhood and past my houses. The streets are narrow. We have not taken issue with the R value. We understand that there's been a lot of talk about the structure. Our only point is that the taxpayers are not paying to repair these roads. These residents are paying to repair these roads. Therefore, perhaps they should have some say on how the roads are used. They are paying for this. These are public access easements, but they are paved and maintained. When there's a pothole, they all have to put up money to pay for it. If there was direct access to this property, such that they did not have to drive through the neighborhood, then the planning department had indicated that we could support this. We do believe that that is a flaw in the use of this property. And if Chevron was willing to give up the easement, someone has to build the road for it to become a public road. And right now, the county is not offering to build a road for this private use. And the applicant has not indicated to us that they are willing to build the road. Therefore, that is what our denial is based on. We understand that the residents don't want anything here, but the rules are under 100. That includes your caterers, your employees, your waitresses, includes everybody who's on site at that moment, and it includes fundraisers, family reunions, and this distinction that is being requested would have to be a change to the zoning ordinance, since those words are not defined in the ordinance.
So if I may, the trigger here for the CUP is the over the 100. That's the trigger. It's not the
Two
access.
triggers.
or
One,
frequency.
over 100, and he wants a permanent, every year he could do the same thing. If it's 6 in October and November. Temporary event means we've authorized you to do 2 events on these 2 dates.
Okay.
It's no longer a temporary event, it's a conditional use permit.
Thank you. And even hypothetically, like you said, if he even had the access agreement with Chevron and that was his own road, then a CUP would still be required
still-
because of the
that's
100-person threshold, although that would negate some of the community impact on the private road,
That's
even though it
correct.
has public legal access.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Peters.
Thank you, Chairman. So one thing that I keep hearing over and over is that this has to do with renters' rights, but we're not talking about somebody renting a property long term. I mean, we're talking about people renting a property for one evening and then using that to host these large events. And I just don't think that Mr. Delmater might understands the distinction between the two, and maybe we need to explain that some more, but renting a place for an evening doesn't make you a resident. If that was the case, my friends from Texas would never come visit here because they don't want to be a resident of California. It's a distinction. I mean, there's a lot of maybe nuance to that, but to me, it's cut and dry that just because you rent a place, you can't, for an evening, that doesn't mean you own that property. That doesn't mean that you can have 100 people there and call it a private, intimate gathering. That sounds like a good idea for a loophole, but that's just not reality. I understand that the issues with the roads, it looks like from your presentation that Chevron did offer you the road at some point for improvement. Is that correct, Mr. Delmater?
They offered it. We had a written agreement. They called and said they had someone else that they preferred to transfer the property to other than me.
Okay, but okay, I'll let it go at that. I think I had a couple other questions.
If I may,
Yes,
Supervisor
Director,
Peters,
yeah.
through the chair, if I may resolve this renter situation, I'm going to reframe it. If he wants to rent out his place for an event that's under 100 people and 6 of them spend the night, that's legal.
Right. That's a good way of putting it. That makes sense. And just so I understand what the ask is here, because I'm kind of confused on that. Initially, I thought it was for, I'll give you just a second. Initially, I thought it was for 6 events for 150 people, October and November. And now it looks like the request also is asking to have this in place, or to have more than that through November 30th of 2025, to have this in place for the entirety of that period.
Yes, I am not clear what the December 1st was, but because it's a conditional use permit, there is no limit on it, which means that he could have October and November of 2023, he could have his 6 events. You know, October, November of 2024, he could have his 6 events. In other words, it goes on, once he activates it, it goes on every year at the same time space. And I wasn't clear about his comments about December 1st to, I'm not clear about that.
Okay.
If he's changing the dates.
Got it. And then multiple times I heard it asked, or I heard it stated that they're under our current rules right now that property owners can have events without restriction, and I cannot believe that would be true. Could you clarify that?
Once again, I will clarify the provision. Property owners can have events under 100 people.
Perfect. And that would,
But it also means that you can't advertise it.
right.
Hi, I'm advertising, I want to throw a rave for under 100 people at my beachside, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you can have a fundraiser for under 100 people. You could even have multiple ones throughout the year. That is true. And, it is also true that, let's say someone had an event, we've had a couple of situations where someone had an event every weekend, Saturday and Sunday night, caused noise, under 100 people, over and over and over again. That rises to the level of a possible nuisance.
Right.
And we would certainly want to know, we would usually go online, we usually find out there's a website, we find out there's some other thing going on besides just a person having events, and then that pushes it back into a commercial venue. The provision is under the radar, 100 people.
Right. Okay, thank you. And for a long-term renter, a property owner, those would apply just the same
That's
as it would for a
correct.
property owner. And then just so I clarify, people that say are renting a hotel, they pay a transient occupancy tax because that stay is transient in nature. It's just passing through. I mean, clearly different than a renter. Those same rights wouldn't apply to somebody renting an Airbnb, even if they were allowed to have parties, anything like that. Is that correct?
That's correct. That is correct. However, as I've recontextualized, if he wants to rent it to someone for under 100 people and allow 6 of them to spend the night, that is his decision.
Right. Got it. And then lastly, as you said, just to make sure we're all crystal clear, the church events, the wedding, all that, up to 100 people, same as any property owner, it's not a problem as it stands today.
That's correct under our current ordinance and the way that we implement it.
Understood. That's all my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to ask a question about the conditional use permit.
Test.
Hello? Oh. I want to talk about the conditional use permit and ask you a few questions, then I want to ask a follow-up question. It's in the word, or it's in the phrase, conditional use permit. So there are multiple conditions that could be applied to a conditional use permit. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and I want to ask you about, for example, I believe the request is that to only have, at least what I heard, was to only have events during October and November. That could be a condition, correct?
That is correct.
And the number of events during that time frame could be a condition.
Correct.
Limiting the size of the crowd could be a condition, correct?
Correct.
Or the number of attendees, I should say. Limiting the use of amplified equipment for speakers or for music could be a condition.
That's correct.
The timing of how late an event might go could be a condition. I mean, what I'm getting at is there could be any number of conditions applied that we felt, you felt were, the neighbors felt were reasonable, and he would agree to. That would make those things would make its way into a conditional use permit. Could.
Yes, those are normal conditions.
Okay.
That's correct.
Without the conditional use permit, so let's turn the page now for a second. Without the conditional use permit, I think what I heard you say was he could have pretty much as many events as he wanted throughout the year of 100 people or less, and he could charge for them. Is that correct?
That is correct. However, if he creates, quote, a nuisance,
I understand.
then it becomes a different issue.
If he creates a nuisance, that's a different situation.
Different situation, but yes, he can.
But assuming that the police or the sheriffs were called
That's
for each and every event, and they showed up and they saw a relatively calm group of people sitting around the table eating or talking with one another, they would probably look at that and then say, nothing to see here, and leave. The sheriff's department would make a determination whether that's a nuisance or not. Is that right? Or the code compliance would.
Yes, we would ask what the complaint was. In other words, complaining because he has 100 people. It's normally a complaint because there's amplified noise or there's some other complaint.
But without the conditional use permit, you could still charge under the, if you're having less than 100 guests and there are.
Yes, but you cannot publicly advertise and charge.
Understood. But you could.
You can't list yourself, for example, with a venue event.
Understood.
caterer,
As you said,
anything.
word of
Just asking.
mouth, the
Yeah.
church knows about his property and he knows
Yes,
them and they
that's
like to
absolutely
come.
correct.
And with the conditional use permit, you could require that no other events other than October and November and a certain number would be allowed? Could you not allow all those other events through the use of a conditional use permit?
We can.
Okay. I thought I heard that, and I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Couch. Sure. Supervisor Scrivener.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Oviatt, I want to talk about access. So we have communication from Chevron, and that was as recently as, within the last month or so. Essentially, could you encapsulate essentially what that said in regards to the access through their property directly off of Round Mountain Road?
They said they're not authorizing the use of it for events.
And we know that there were discussions with, and Mr. Delamater, he has testified to this fact that there were discussions with him, and I think he intimated that they then moved on and were talking to someone else. Have there been any discussions with Chevron and the county as far as that becoming a public access? And if so, what would that process look like, and what would that entail? Do we know what the condition of the road is as far as whether or not it's at county standards? Could that become a public access but not county maintained? And the residents would continue to have to, as they've been doing what it sounds like with the roads, other roads in the area, pulling money together and contributing that to the maintenance of the other roads in the area?
Chevron is concerned about the liability. They are not willing to have it be a public access easement that is not in the county road system. We do have the interim director of Public Works who can explain the level of improvements that would have to be made to that road in order to have it come into the system. If they only give it to us as a public access easement, they are liable for any accidents. Chevron is not willing to do that.
Okay, so that's the distinction then. If it's public access, Chevron believes they still have liability unless it was taken into the county system. And from what I understand, Mr. Champlin, could you come up and make sure I'm not speaking for you or the department? That could be dangerous. Good afternoon. Can you probably identify yourself for the record, please?
Yeah, I'm Josh Champlin. I'm the interim public works director.
Thank you. So, we have several roads in the county that are public access but not county maintained. And so it sounds to me like what Chevron is saying, if I have this right, Ms. Oviatt, is that they would not relinquish this because they still have liability unless it was taken into the county system. To me, that means it becoming a county maintained road.
That would be correct. So public access easements are easements granted by a property owner at the time. They're offered as public access, but the underlying maintenance of the roadway and the property ownership lie with the underlying property owner for every segment of that roadway. It's the county's general operation that we don't purchase this in fee. We get an easement ourselves for road purposes, and in order for it to be publicly maintained, we have certain standards that we require roads to be constructed to before we will take them into the maintained road system.
And do we have any idea what the condition of this road is, and what the costs may be associated with it becoming county maintained?
I have not been out there personally. I've seen photographs of it. It doesn't fall within it would most likely fall into a local road designation, and in that case, in a rural setting like that, it may be close to the requirements. We don't require curb and gutter and things like that out in the rural settings. It may require AC dikes. We have to look at things such as drainage and if we're, condemning properties to run off water, things like that. But from the photos I've seen, it's not too far off. Public Works, from all the mapping that I've seen, there is it's our determination that the east-west street up higher is actually a private access easement. It's not a public access easement, and I don't know what that road is up there. The name of it slips my mind right now. River Acres, I think. Is that the road, Lorelei?
So this is what your department provided to us. You'll notice that the lane we're talking about is only 12 feet wide.
Okay. So per the mapping, I just want to make it clear, per the mapping that we have, all the parcel maps, could you leave that up there, Ms. Oviatt? Per the mapping that we have, is it Brandy Lane? The alignment of Brandy Lane straight up into Round Mountain, that's the dedicated public access easement. It's currently not constructed north of Adolphus. So if you were to extend Brandy Lane straight north into Round Mountain, that is the prescribed public access easement per map. That's the public access, the legal access to this property. I think the access that's being used is the east-west road further north on Round Mountain up there, which is River Acres. And per all the mapping I've seen, that's a private access easement. So that's where my department has a bit of an issue, is that east-west street up there road, that is a private access easement. So currently, from Public Works' point of view, private access is being used off of Round Mountain to come down Mandy Lane. If you're not using that road, essentially being used through Chevron's property. If it were to be legal, that road, Brandy Lane, would have to be extended all the way north to Round Mountain. That's where the public access easement actually lies, on undeveloped property right there.
Okay, so rather than make that the two streets that essentially are kind of a triangle around a tree,
Right.
and I've been out there, and yeah, that sounds about right, 12 feet wide. Rather than make those a public access, go through the process, you're talking about extending Brandy directly north up to Round Mountain?
Correct. That's where per the parcel map in that area, that's where the public access easement has already been granted. It would cut through, from what I've seen from the photographs, it would cut through possibly some corrals that are built in that public access easement currently. And so it's been undeveloped, but that's where the access was granted by the property owner at the time of the land division.
That's interesting. Well, I appreciate that information, and thanks for your testimony. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have right now.
No, thank you, Supervisor Scrivener, for those comments and questions. Very insightful, especially if Chevron has a legal risk and liability and wants to unload it. And if there's a chance the county could pick it up and bring it up to county standards through Chevron, maybe there's a pathway there. Okay, good discussion, thank you.
May I make a comment? May I make a comment?
Are we done with rebuttal? Hold on, wait 1 second. You already did your rebuttal. You can make a comment if a member of the board is asking you a question, but the public hearing is now closed and we're doing board member comments.
Does that mean I may ask a question?
No, only if, your,
May I answer?
if a board member has a question of you, then you can come up and answer. Okay. In absence of that, no. Oh, sorry, Supervisor Peters.
Thank you, Chairman Flores. I understand this is a complicated and a divisive issue, but seeing that the regulations we've had in place for many years have been effective in navigating these issues, seeing that there's still the ability to hold events, I don't see a reason to go and undo that. I believe that the way this has all been presented, I find myself in agreement with staff's recommendation, and I'll make a motion to move forward on that recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Members, cast your vote.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yeah. Supervisor Couch.
Here's the reason I brought up the issues that I brought up before we vote. I will almost bet you that there are going to be multiple events throughout the year, and as I looked at this and I considered it, I thought, hey, a couple of months a year and a small amount of events would probably be preferable to the neighborhood as opposed to multiple events per year. But we're going to find out.
May I make a comment?
Sure, Supervisor.
Yeah, I've been out to the venue, and it is a beautiful venue. It's a really a terrific property. I can see the reason why folks would be here in support of it, and wanting to continue its use. The issue, unfortunately, that I keep coming back to is the existing legal access through the neighborhood. I have heard from several residents, those that have appeared at the hearing, and other people that I know that live out there and have an interest in it, that traffic coming through the neighborhood is problematic for them. And without the legal access through the Chevron property, without Chevron being willing to allow that, and absent the legal access easement being improved, as our interim public works director explained, without that, I see having over 100 people being very difficult to handle the traffic load. And so you may be correct that there will be more events with 100 people or less, but I think that that's less of a traffic impact than if you're increasing it in size. And so for that reason, I'm going to support the motion from Supervisor Peters, despite the fact that I do see the allure and the beauty of the location, and would like to try to find a way to make this work. But the impact on the residents with a large amount of traffic coming in, I think is unfair to ask of them, considering what the current private road conditions are, the narrowness, the lack of proper lighting, et cetera. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Scrivener. Supervisor Couch, is that
I wanted to mention one other thing. I appreciate those comments, Zach, because Brandy Lane, I think, even though it's the prescribed access to Round Mountain, the grade is not, it won't work. It's prohibitively expensive, and that's obviously why you have this little road that comes off of Round Mountain Road. Is there, by denying this, is there a time limit? Let's assume that Mr. Delamater or anybody can work something out with Chevron. Is there a limit of the time that is imposed if it's denied before he could bring back another proposal? Or if it's denied without prejudice?
Under the zoning ordinance, he could resubmit, and it could be processed immediately.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Couch. Okay, we have a motion and a second. No more further comments. Members, cast your vote.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, thank you for everyone that showed up for the hearing. Having no additional items to consider, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to Tuesday, May 9th at 9 a.m. A motion?
So moved.
Thank you. We're adjourned.
Sink your claws into this one. Lotion with